closer to you so that our listeners can hear you. So actually, I'll tell you a story. We had the wife of a World War II vet in, and we were telling her a story, and I said, now you need to kind of kiss that microphone. And after she left, there was pink lipstick all over the microphone. So so get right up there close so that everybody can hear.
I forgot my lipstick.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, then the
John,
microphone is safe.
Yeah, I wanted to say, John Ansted, your son, thank you so much for bringing Phil over. We greatly appreciate it. These in-studio interviews are just wonderful. We are the Americhicks, Molly and Kim. Check out our website. There's a lot of great information there. It's americhicks.com, and all of our shows are archived there, as well as We Are the Americhicks on Facebook and Twitter. And we are Facebook living this interview today, so be sure and check that out as well. So, Molly, great to see you.
Well, great to be here. I'm really excited, and I'm excited to hear your story, Phil. I think about the courage that you guys have and had in such a crazy time. You know, they talk about the World War, and there were so many different wars taking place, so many different battles, and you've got the different lands, you've got the different machinery. Everybody that we talk to, Phil, has a different story of their time in the war. So thanks for being here today to share yours.
Well, I've been working for a whole week to come and see you.
Well, we're excited about that. So
Great.
Let's jump in here. Phil, you served in the 84th Infantry.
Yes.
And they were called the Rail Splitters.
Mm-hmm.
So let's begin, though, at the beginning of the war. Where were you when you heard that Pearl Harbor had been bombed?
I don't really remember. I was in high school. It was on a Sunday, and I remember. I don't think I knew about it until after church,
Mm-hmm.
but at school the next day it was important for us to think about, and we didn't know what to think.
So you were in high school at that time. How did you end up in the service then?
Well, when I graduated, I was drafted into the 86th Infantry Division, and we were in camp with the 84th and thought they were a bunch of old guys because we were the teenage division, and eventually, as time went on, I finally ended up in the 84th Infantry.
Okay.
And how old were you when you first went in, when you were drafted?
I think I would have been, 19, I think.
Okay.
And so how did that work? How did you get drafted? Where did you go?
Well, we went by train from Kalkaska, Michigan, to finally down to Denton, Texas. And these two divisions were at Camp Housey there. And I took an exam, and they said, instead of staying in the infantry, would you like to go to college? Well, you know the answer for that. So I went into the ASTP program at Lafayette College in Pennsylvania. And after a while, actually, Henry Kissinger was in the dormitory right next to me.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
But he was just a buck private like the rest of us. And after 3 semesters, they thought it was time to go back and have somebody shoot at you again. So I went back to Camp Claiborne in Louisiana, and there the 84th Infantry Division was there, and we went on maneuvers, and of course you've probably all heard about the crawling around in the mud and the tropics, and that was the way it was. In fact, I even got to shoot a bazooka there, and I hit the tank 150 yards away with it.
Wow.
So it was, at my age, it was kind of an exciting thing. We learned
Sure.
how to shoot, we competed with each other, and I got a terrible case of poison ivy there and stayed in the hospital for about a week to get rid of that. But anyway, we finally were sent to go to a troop ship in we were in Camp Kilmer in New Jersey, and our ship, it was close enough so that the college and visit people there, and we'd hire a taxi actually. Can you imagine? Of course, it wasn't very expensive then. Anyway, when we did get time to go on the troop ship, we took off from New York, went back past the Statue of Liberty, and pretty soon a tanker came along and bumped into our ship, and so we had to turn around, come back, and I got to go back to Lafayette College again for visits. Anyway, second time we went to Europe and landed in Liverpool, and we ended up in a little town called Broughton. And I went, of course, on a pass to London and enjoyed things there, although Buckingham Palace looked more like a business building than a palace from the outside, of course. And finally, after some more training there, we went to go off the coast in a ship, and then transferred while we're in the water to a landing craft, and we landed on Omaha Beach the same way the original guys did 2 months earlier, so we weren't in any danger there. From there we went to Paris, and of course we didn't get milk to drink, and I thought milk was so important. It tasted so good, and one day in the ship, in a truck, I heard some tinkling bells, and I got off the truck and I saw this French girl was milking a cow in the field. And I asked my buddy, how do you get some milk? He says, avez-vous du lait? So I went up to her and I told her that, and she looked at me terribly. And finally I pointed to the cow, and I realized later that what I had said was, do you have milk? And anyway, we don't need any more jokes.
You thought that was a little personal, huh?
But anyway, then we went from Paris.
So did you get any milk then, Phil Ansted?
Oh yes, she filled the canteen full for me.
Nice.
So and finally she got over her shock. But the French people and the Belgians and even some Germans, and of course the Dutch people, all were so excited that we had come to save them from Hitler's regime. And it was really an exciting time for us. And,
you know, Phil, one of the reasons that Molly and I, we're talking with Phil Ansted, we're the Americhicks, Molly and Kim. One of the reasons that we started doing this show is we, in 2016, got to go to Normandy with a team that took some D-Day vets.
Oh.
And we were astounded to see, even today, the French, the Belgian, the Dutch, they all revere you guys. I mean, you're like rock stars over there. And because they were really living in a tough spot. They were hungry.
Oh, yes.
I've learned you guys were hungry. I mean, you were skinny guys. You you weren't fed really well, but you were out there.
Yeah, I just checked. My weight is the same now as it was then.
And you are slender, so. So
real quick, but continue what you were saying when you're there in Paris and you're seeing people in the town and they're being really nice to you.
Yeah.
What were they saying?
My French wasn't too good, of course, but they did. Sometimes we'd even go through a little town and the ladies would come out with big baskets full of bread. French bread is pretty nice, as you know.
Yes, it is.
And we finally, of course, got to Germany, went near Aachen, which had been bombed by our airplanes is a result to follow up that the Germans had done to Coventry in England. And later I was in the hospital in Coventry. But we went on, and And
Have you seen any battles at this time? Have you engaged the enemy at any point up to this
no,
time?
not to them.
Not till then. Okay.
No.
Okay. And how did you guys travel?
Oh, sometimes we walked for 5 or 10 miles. Sometimes we went in a truck. In Europe, usually it was by truck.
Mm-hmm.
You had a seat down each side of the truck, so you'd have like 8 guys sitting side by side, facing 8 guys in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But in my diaries and stuff, I marvel at how beautiful much of the country was, in spite of the damage that there was.
You know, Phil, let's go to break. We're with Phil Ansted, World War II veteran. We're the Americhicks, Molly and Kim. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.